All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I have with me Kevin, the criminal defense attorney, and many more things. So I'm going to be asking him a couple of questions today to actually get his insight and view on things. So Kevin, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing amazing. I'm most excited to actually have you here, actually.
Yeah, I'm really
So
looking forward to chatting with you as well. So we'll have a good time.
amazing. I love it. Okay, so from what I know about you, you're moving towards eventually maybe even being a form of a teacher or a guide to like, potentially up and coming attorneys or things like that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of an idea that I've come up with more recently, probably in the last year or two, understanding that with all the success and all the, trial experience that we've had at my firm, that it does take a toll on people, and that one, we can't do it forever. There's just two of us here. And two, I don't know how long I want to do it as long, given what it takes out of us. But I don't want to give up on the goal, which is providing people with a strong advocate against governmental accusations that are oftentimes they seem insurmountable, but most of the time I believe that we can find a way to win. But
Mm,
if I can't do it forever, and my partner and I can't do every single case, obviously, I think the best next step would be to do one of two or maybe even both things. And we've been tossing around the idea of being jury consultants, as well
mm,
as training young and maybe even older trial attorneys, because I think that we and myself personally have a unique way
mm,
of attacking cases against the government, advocating for our client, and putting ourselves in a position where we're going to win the majority of the time, which is not something that most defense attorneys can say. And I
mhm,
don't believe that most of defense attorneys would even believe that. I do believe that every case is winnable. We have a track record, and certainly it's not perfect, but we win the vast majority of the trials we go to. And I want to see it continue that way, but I also want to help other people, so that really it's beyond Kevin O'Brien and Adam Eggleston. It's really attacking the system with many talented and skilled attorneys. And I think that all starts with jury selection and in the opening statements, and any help that we can provide.
mm.
I want to do that because I believe in that. And I also think it'll compensate pretty well as well. So all of those things together would be a good time.
Of course, that is amazing. And mentioning jury selection, actually, that is something that actually piqued my attention here. So now on jury selection itself, like how important is jury selection? And you know, like why is it important, basically?
Well, that's a really long answer, and I'm happy to try to give you the answer that you're looking for.
Mhm.
I don't know what other people would say, but I probably have 150 to 200 jury trials under my belt, and my partner probably has, close to 50 would be my guess. So it's my firm belief that that is the single most important part of the case. I spend
Mm,
at least half my time preparing for a trial by thinking, and it really is just thinking about what are the hurdles in the case, what are the negative parts of our case, and what are we going to be able to do to attack that with a jury. And if we can't get the jury on the train with us
mhm,
in a similar thinking, then we're going to be unsuccessful. So we have to um, get the most thoughtful version of the jury that we can, and we also need to get people who are right for that particular case, and we also need to get people who are open-minded. Ideally, we want people who are going to like us, or me and my client, because it's a lot harder to convict somebody if you like the person or you think you like the person, and we have limited time there. But I think part of the trap that a lot of attorneys fall into is they become too stiff, they become too boring, and they
mm,
also start to believe that there's a certain way of doing it. Now, yeah, there are rules, but we have to think outside the box and think directly on the case that you're dealing with. Yes, there are some tactics that you can use in each case, but if you're doing the same thing over and over on each case, you're going to be bored. The jury's going to feel that you're bored, and they're going to be bored in turn. I want the jury to be right on the edge of their seats as much as possible. And I want them to be along for the ride. I want them to understand that I am an extension of my client,
Hmm.
and my client is an extension of me. And we're here to fight. We're here to push back against governmental accusations. We're not going to be apologetic about attacking things. We're not going to be apologetic about fighting for our rights, and we're not going to apologize for going all the way and pointing out all of the uh, various things that the government did wrong or that they didn't give you. You know, I often talk to the jury about things. I said, well, what are you looking for? And they're like, evidence. And I was like, well, what does that mean to you? Well, they often will say, you know, phone calls or videos or testimony. I think evidence is so much more than that, in the sense that it's also what the government doesn't show you. And I think you need to always think about that. And so I really try to tailor, that's a very long-winded way of saying, I really try to tailor my questions, my themes, my way of communicating with the jury to the individual case. And one other thing I forgot to mention, I apologize, but is
No
it's the
problem.
only time during the case where you can have a back and forth with the jury. Once the jury's selected and
Hmm.
the judge starts instructing them, there's no more back and forth. They can't ask us questions. They can't respond to things that we say. And that puts them in a passive role. In the jury selection, it's tough because it's the first thing they're doing and it's in front of a crowd of people, but they're in an active role where they're answering questions, they're thinking about things, they're maybe disagreeing with other jurors, and all of that's awesome. But to me, it's an area that is so lacking, at least in criminal defense, and frankly, with prosecutors as well. I think I could train them as well, to be better advocates and to put more emphasis on that crucial part of a case.
Amazing, amazing. I really, really love the answer there. So now, even with juries, just what I got from, or part of the things I got from what you've discussed as well right now, is not outright just, engaging with the jury, basically. Like, you're communicating to the jury basically to ensure that, one, you get them on your side because you want them on your side, right? So now there might be times where, I've heard this before from an attorney as well, where, on a particular case, maybe you're working a particular case, and there happen to be this, it's sort of bias with regards to this particular case, right? Like, pre-trial, anything like that, there's already a bias there. So now, like, how would you, in that particular situation, what kind of tactic would you go about, or how would you go about handling that kind of situation, um, to win over, such jury?
Well, that's a great question, and it brings me back to a lot of the cases I've been doing recently. And for whatever reason, I've had a lot of sex cases recently, and one of the things that I always make sure to talk to the jury about, and I try to adhere to this, is I try to never lie to them. I try to never say anything to them that's disingenuous. So if I don't believe it, I don't say it, and that's really a word that I use. So when I stand up, a lot of the times, the first thing I talk to the jury about is the fact, in a sex case. Again, this is different than how I would handle a DWI or a murder or, a burglary. But in a sex case, I normally, one of the first things I say is, this is disgusting. It's atrocious. Like, if it involves kids, or even just an adult woman, like, that is one of the most heinous crimes, one of the most heinous accusations that we can have. In a lot of ways, I think it's worse than murder, because there's never a reason to sexually assault a kid or even an adult, but there are reasons to murder or kill somebody. But there's never a reason to do something like that to another person. So I stand up and I let them know, I've got children. I'm a married man. I have a wife, and I think that the acts that my client is being accused of are reprehensible. But I also know, or I believe, that this is one of the most falsely accused crimes there is. And what would be even more heinous is for an innocent man or woman, although most of the time in a sex case it's going to be a man, to be accused of something so disgusting, so nasty and heinous, and then be convicted just because of the accusation. And that would be wrong. So that's a theme we have to talk about immediately, because if I act like it's any other crime, or if I act like I'm just dealing with robots there instead of parents and uncles and aunts and nieces and all of those things who care about their family and other friends and loved ones, then I'm already losing, because they're going to be like, this guy's just a lawyer just going through the motions and talking to me in the same way he would if it was a robbery. It's not the same thing. There's emotion involved, and we have to talk about that, and we have to be open and honest about it. And some of the times I have to tell them, at the end of the case, we're not going to know what happened, and you might think my client might have done this, but you're not going to know. And the reason you're not going to know is because the government didn't do their job on X, Y, and Z. And that's oftentimes talked about in opening. So I look at jury selection I look at it hand in hand with opening, because I try to keep the themes together so that I'm consistent, so that I come across as credible and consistent, again, to the jury, and they know exactly where I'm going, because it's a lot easier to follow along if you stay consistent and you stay true to your thing. Now, certain things, and I address this with them as well, are going to come up. I don't know everything that the witnesses are going to say. I don't know everything that the police or that the evidence is going to show. And frankly, I'm going to screw up as well. But we have to get through this. And I let them know that. I said, there's going to be questions you wish I asked. And there's going to be times when I sit down after doing cross-examination that I wish I had gotten into something else. But the goal is for you to sit there. A lot of people will say, and I even tell them this a lot of times in jury, as a fair and impartial jury. Well, yeah, that's what everybody says they want. I really want a jury that's on my side, and I tell them that.
Mhm.
I don't care about a fair and impartial jury. I'll settle for that, because most of the time when you walk in, you're actually walking into a jury who's against you, especially in a case like that. They're like, we don't care if we're going to hear all this stuff, if we're going to think about all this stuff, somebody's going to pay. But in
Right.
our case, it shouldn't be my client if they don't prove him or her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You should really be angry at the government, because we all know how serious and how heinous these crimes are. And when they miss steps and when they don't do what they're supposed to do, they're letting you down, not me. I'm only there to serve my client. And I let them know that. I don't care about anybody else's feelings. I may feel bad for the alleged victim, and I say I often feel bad for them regardless, whether it happened or it didn't, because a happy, healthy person doesn't make false allegations like that
Of
either.
course.
So most of the time, I feel bad for the victim regardless, and I try to treat them accordingly. But if that also depends on what I think their motivation is. If it's to get back at somebody, if it's to punish, maybe a father who cheated on their mother or something like that. Well, that's different, because now you're making things up about a person who maybe have done other things that are wrong. But this is a serious crime, and that's what we're taking on head on. And I think that most of the time, if you're honest and open and very, very forthright and genuine with the jury, they're going to come along for the ride. They may not always side with you, but if they can feel that you're being, genuine with them, they're going to at least listen and consider what you have to say.
Of course. Wow, this is amazing. I've learned a lot from this so far, because with what you've just mentioned to me, I got the idea of being, one, consistent with them, two, being genuine, and just you lay the facts out. So this is definitely amazing and one of the best interviews I've done so far. I feel like I've learned a lot today, and that's pretty much the questions that I have for you personally, on you know jury selection and things of that sort. So I really look forward to doing another one with you. Really love having you here on this podcast. Okay, so yeah, I'll see you on the next one, Kevin, and thank you very much today. Okay.
Well, I've enjoyed it very much. I appreciate you having me back. And anytime you have questions or need something in my field, I'm happy to help you guys out. You guys seem to be great there. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, yeah, so if we do want to find you, where can we find you? What is your website?
My website, I believe, is oe-legaldefense.com, but I can pull that up real quick for you here. I never really Google myself all that much because I feel like I don't want to
You don't
take
want
the
to be
good.
narcissistic about it.
I don't want to read anything bad about myself. So if I can't read the bad stuff, I don't want to read the good stuff. It's www.oe-legaldefense.com. All of our contact information is on there. I'd be remiss without saying my law partner and my paralegal, my law partner Adam Eggleston, and my paralegal and office manager Taylor Cowan are the best people that I've ever worked with, and they really keep the whole thing running. And without them, I would be a fraction of what I am. So it's a team effort, and that's what you get when you hire us.
That's amazing. All right. Well, everybody, go ahead, check Kevin out. He's got the website. We're going to have a link down below for him. And yeah, that's it for today. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Amazing.